What happens when an undercover owner buys a motorcycle at his own shop, only to stop cold when he hears his mechanics mocking safety. This is a story about trust, integrity, and the power of standing up for what's right. It's a tale that will make you question how well you truly know the people around you, and how far you'd go to protect what matters most. The morning sun rose over the quiet town of Cedar Ridge, casting a golden glow over the streets. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of pine trees and freshly brewed coffee from the diner down the road. At the edge of town stood a small but bustling motorcycle shop called Ridge Riders. It was a place where bikers came to find their dream machines, where engines roared to life, and where the promise of the open road began. But today, this shop would become the stage for a story no one saw coming. The owner of Ridge Riders was a man named Landon Hayes. Landon was in his early 40s, with a rugged charm and a heart as big as the mountains surrounding Cedar Ridge. He had built the shop from the ground up, pouring his sweat, tears, and dreams into every bolt and gear. Landon wasn't just a businessman. He was a biker at heart. He believed in the freedom of the road, the thrill of the ride, and most importantly, the safety of every rider who trusted his shop. But lately, something had been bothering Landon. Sales were down, and a few customers had complained about the quality of repairs. At first, he brushed it off as bad luck, but deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. He trusted his team. His mechanics, Derek and Mitch, had been with him for years. But trust, as Landon would soon learn, can sometimes blind you to the truth. One Saturday morning, Landon decided to take matters into his own hands. He didn't want to accuse anyone without proof, so he came up with a plan. He would go undercover, disguised as a regular customer, and see for himself how his shop was being run. He put on an old leather jacket, a pair of worn-out jeans, and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. He even borrowed a friend's truck to make sure no one recognized him. As he drove to the shop, his heart pounded with a mix of excitement and dread. What would he find? When Landon walked into Ridge Riders, the bell above the door jingled softly. The shop smelled of oil and rubber, a familiar scent that usually brought him comfort. But today it felt different. Derek was at the counter, flipping through a magazine, while Mitch was tinkering with a bike in the corner. Neither of them looked up when Landon entered. "Hey there," Landon said, his voice steady but casual. "I'm looking to buy a bike. Something reliable, you know." Derek glanced up, his expression bored. "Sure, we've got a few in the back. What's your budget?" Landon hesitated, playing the part of a hesitant buyer. I'm not sure. Maybe around $5,000? I just need something safe, you know? I've got a family to think about." Derek smirked and exchanged a quick glance with Mitch. "Safe, huh? Yeah, we got plenty of safe bikes." There was a tone in his voice that made Landon's stomach twist. It was almost mocking. Mitch chuckled from the corner. "Yeah, safe as long as you don't mind a few loose bolts here and there." Landon's heart skipped a beat. He forced a laugh, trying to keep his cover. "You're kidding, right?" Derek shrugged. "Hey, man, bikes are bikes. They all break down eventually. Just don't tell the boss we said that." He winked, as if sharing some inside joke. Landon felt a cold knot form in his chest. He had trusted these men, given them jobs, treated them like family. And here they were, laughing about safety, something he had always taken seriously. He wanted to confront them right then and there, but he knew he had to see this through. He needed to know how deep this went. "All right," Landon said, forcing a smile. "Show me what you've got." Derek led him to back of the shop, where a row of motorcycles stood gleaming under the fluorescent lights. Landon recognized a few of them, bikes he had personally inspected and approved for sale. But as Derek pointed out their features, Landon noticed something alarming. The brakes on one bike were worn down, the tires on another were cracked, and the engine on a third sounded like it was on its last legs. "This one's a beauty," Derek said, patting the seat of a sleek black bike. "Just came in last week. Runs like a dream." Landon crouched down, pretending to inspect the bike. He ran his hand along the frame, his fingers brushing against a loose bolt. His stomach churned. This wasn't just negligence. This was dangerous. These bikes could kill someone. "How much for this one?" Landon asked, standing up. "For you? $6,000. Derek said with a grin. But don't worry, we'll throw in a free helmet. Safety first, right? Landon forced another laugh, but inside he was seething. He handed over a fake name and number, promising to come back later with the money. As he walked out of the shop, his mind raced. How long had this been going on? How many customers had left with bikes that weren't safe? He felt a wave of guilt wash over him. He had trusted the wrong people, and now others were paying the price. That evening, Landon sat in his office, staring at the wall. He knew what he had to do, but it wouldn't be easy. Derek and Mitch had been with him for years. They had families, bills to pay. But how could he let this continue? How could he put profits over people's lives? The next morning, Landon called a staff meeting. Derek and Mitch walked in, laughing and joking, completely unaware of what was about to happen. Landon stood at the front of the room, his expression serious. "I've got something to say," he began, his voice steady but firm. "And it's not easy for me to say this, but it needs to be said." The room fell silent. Derek and Mitch exchanged nervous glances. "Yesterday," Landon continued, "I came into this shop as a customer. I wanted to see for myself how things were being run. And what I saw, what I heard, it broke my heart." Derek's face paled. "Boss, Landon held up a hand, cutting him off. "No, you don't get to explain. You had your chance. You had my trust, and you threw it away. You laughed about safety, about putting people's lives at risk, and that's something I can't forgive." Mitch looked down at his feet, his face red with shame. Derek opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. "You're both fired," Landon said, his voice firm but not unkind. "I'll give you 2 weeks' pay, and I'll write you a reference if you need it. But you can't work here anymore. Not after this." The room was silent, the weight of Landon's words hanging in the air. Derek and Mitch nodded, too ashamed to argue. They gathered their things and left. Their heads hung low. As Landon watched them go, he felt a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, but also relief. He had done the right thing, even though it hurt. And as he looked around the shop, he knew he had a lot of work to do to rebuild what had been broken. Over the next few weeks, Landon worked tirelessly to restore Ridge Riders to its former glory. He hired new mechanics, implemented stricter safety checks, and personally inspected every bike that came through the shop. He even reached out to the customers who had complained, offering free repairs and heartfelt apologies. Slowly but surely, the shop began to thrive again. Customers returned, word spread, and Ridge Riders became known not just for its bikes, but for its integrity. Landon had learned a hard lesson, but it was one he would never forget. The moral of the story? Trust is earned, not given. And sometimes, doing the right thing means making the hardest choices. But in the end, it's always worth it. Because integrity isn't just about doing what's easy. It's about doing what's right, even when no one is watching. Before we wrap up, I want to take a moment to thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. Stories like these remind us of the power of kindness, courage, and standing up for what's right. If this story touched your heart, made you think, or inspired you in any way, let us know in the comments below. Tell us where you're watching from. And don't forget to share this story with others. Sometimes, a simple act of sharing can make a huge impact. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and join our community. We've got more heartfelt stories coming your way. Until next time, remember, kindness changes lives. See you soon.